So,
That's all right.
and if you want to use name tags for our guests, we can do that.
Okay, we'll call the
Ready?
meeting to order. Lisa Ritchie, would you like to take the roll?
Certainly would. Let's start with Tom Sonic,
Here.
Julie Barrett,
Here.
Carrie Nadeau,
Here.
Stacy Maher,
Here.
Tracy Onsworth,
Trudy. Here.
Trudy, Trudy Onsworth, Lisa Long,
Here.
and then myself, Lisa Ritchie, as the commission secretary.
Okay, and we'll move it. The meeting was called to order at 6:32. We'll adopt the agenda. Anybody have anything they want to change or add to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda, to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Trudy. Second.
Yeah, second from Stacy. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as is?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Great.
I just gotta have that one.
Playing the role of John Schmal tonight.
Yeah, like.
And you're not a voting member of this group, so. All right, the approval of the minutes, so for our November 3rd meeting minutes, did anyone have any questions or concerns with those?
I did receive an email from Carrie with some corrections to be made.
Okay.
And no, thank you. I very much appreciate that.
I believe 4C is the Blandon Foundation, not the Landon Foundation.
Right.
And divide and conquer, not concur. Although that's also important. And the commission can then instead of not they. So the commission can then instead of the commission can they. So just tiny typos.
Okay.
That's it.
So do you want to entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 3rd with those changes?
So moved, Trudy.
Give a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from 11:3 with those proposed changes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I ask who seconded?
Oh, sorry, it's Julie.
Okay.
Okay, we're here. So meeting open to the public. So we have some special guests here during our meeting open to the public segment. And so, Mr. Mayor, if you want to just kind of introduce yourself and Dan and talk about what's going on.
Yep, so, this is Dan Fisher. He was our chair of the Veterans Park just over here, across from the Snowman. And Dan and I, along with our committee, are looking at possibly putting some sort of, we're looking at the Freedom Rock. Maybe Dan, if you want to.
Well, that's an idea.
It's an idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, every year since 2010, when we started our committee and made the design, we had a committee of 8 because a committee of 30 got involved and it crashed immediately. One meeting. So we threw that out and went to 8 because 8 gets things done.
Right.
And we had majority were veterans because that's their park. And we had on vets. So we went through the analysis of what we wanted to do and when we wanted to do it. I brought books, Veterans Park books, so you can read that and get a good idea of how this generated. It started with Henry Castle. And it came all the way down through the line until what we did over here. But every step of the way on the design part of it, we included DSGW when they were in town before they moved out. So they enhanced any ideas that we had, and then we ran it past the city council and showed what we did. Thumbs up or thumbs down, all thumbs up. So what we've done in the following years since the opening of 2015 is to modify slightly the shrubberies and landscaping, and, you know, update the painting, things fade, it's all open to the wind and that, wind, ice, snow. So we're at a point now where we are looking to enhance it somewhat and not take away from the somberness of the park, because there's no weapons that we show at the park, it's about service and sacrifice. And one of the things brought to our committee, which meets every 2 months now, it used to meet every month for 6 years, is something that is honorable and historical to the city of North St. Paul. And the Freedom Rock is one of those that can be modified to do that. You can put Henry Castle's picture on there. We have quite a few members of the USS Warrior at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. That could be a concept that's painted on one side. Patriotic themes, flowers, flags, stuff like that. And it's online. I haven't yet asked a person to carry it as a project and look forward to it. It's only in the beginnings. I hear Lisa told me something like 10 grand, right?
That's what we had
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah, and I don't think that, you know, we try to maintain the same amount of money for maintenance, but we don't, if we go into a fundraising, just like we did with the park, we gotta raise 150 grand in order to get 150 grand from bonding, which we did at the state senate and the state representatives. So we'll look at these, but we wanna keep it tasteful and not gaudy or militaristic. That's our goal. It's in the mission statement in our book, which I'll hand out to everyone here. So at this point here, we've got 8 things to do next year, mostly maintenance. But one is to begin this concept of the Freedom Rock, which is around the state of Minnesota. And it's actually like a pathway. People already use Veterans Park as a pathway up and down on biking, and they go over and take a look. So if there's something that advertises service and sacrifice, yet it's located in North St. Paul, then that draws people here. The park already draws people we don't even know that are coming. The state of Minnesota have the Suicide Prevention Caucus over here, housing for heroes, for homeless vets. So if you build it, it will come, and that's kind of like what we do. We don't even go searching for this, it comes to us because of the nature of the park. And that's where we are right now. So the Freedom Rock is probably a concept that's going to be researched a little bit more, and then they'll bring it. The committee will look at it, and we'll make a decision on whether or not it's, you know, it's appropriate. And then after that, the next step we always did back then, before there was an arts council, let's go to the city council and give a big representation, especially the greeter. The greeter statue is one of those cases where we didn't know where we were going until we got news of the death of a Marine who graduated from North St. Paul High and saw his image, and then we enhanced it, and I used the services of my daughter, a graphic designer, to scale up or modify into what you see out there right now. So we do have the availability pro bono of artists and just general public. General public comes in and gives us a lot of ideas.
So,
We have to listen.
so I think that what we're looking at is the Arts Council being kind of I would say the driving force behind it. You know, it's kind of coming from our idea from the Veterans Park side, but I believe this is part of a arts kind of a concept. You know, because the Freedom Rock itself represents, you know, the military, but it's also an artwork that's part of the park. If the Arts Council is able to possibly do grants, you know, that might be able to help us as we work together,
Mhm.
I say, you know, both the Veterans Park and the Arts Council can work together
Right,
and possibly making this happen.
right.
That was kind of my thought.
And I think one of the biggest things that we've found that people appreciate when they visit, and they don't even live here, is to walk the circle and look at the historical facts of the conflicts in the life of North St. Paul and how the city population goes da 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 da, and it gets up here and then it goes down. And they come away with an education about the city, and so they can actually see that for themselves. And the historian, Paul Anderson, was the driving force to get us to think that way.
Yeah.
So we used Paul as our mentor,
Oh, good.
and everybody else had their own specific job. Treasurer, ROTC put their input in, and it was a good mix. We had a good group of people. Now we got a basic core of those 8. We probably still retain 4, but we've added on 4 more. So we're trying to keep it manageable, and that works.
Good.
Yeah.
So, can I ask a few questions here? And anybody, please, if you have any questions, but, so, I feel like I'm kind of hearing 2 different things here. Like, so is this a project that you want the Arts Council to kind of pick up and run with it? Or is it something that the Veterans Park Committee they're gonna do the research, they're gonna figure out what they want, come up with a plan and a design, and then we collaborate with them on that? Or how do you see this coming?
I thought more of the opposite, but you might think differently. I was thinking that the Arts Council could come up with kind of the plan and bring it to us.
And I'm thinking the opposite.
And you're thinking the opposite. So it'll be us coming up with the plan, bring it to the Arts Council.
Mhm.
In my experience at 3M, I was an engineer there for 35 years. If you make it, and people look at it, and they appreciate what you're trying to do, they can see something I can't.
Right.
They can smooth an edge off of here, or
Mhm.
put a red piece of pencil over here, and then they can, we can get to the point, and that's why it's like a second look.
Yeah.
And if we run into a problem with, we got legacy funds, that was the key. And the legacy funds through the state required the city manager to fill out all kinds of forms we didn't know how to do. And if we go through something like that again and go for legacy funds, that's where we need help, because we don't have Jason Zemer here anymore.
So maybe it's us working together
Yeah.
to get funds,
Yeah.
working with the Arts Council.
Yeah.
As we get the funds, look at designs, us looking at designs, bringing it to the Arts Council and getting their,
Yeah, to get your feedback.
or working together, maybe
Yeah.
as a group.
So it's like feedback, not approval,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
So,
basically.
yeah, and so collaborating in that way. I mean, because Dan, I really like everything you said about, how the park is set up. There are no weapons there on purpose. You want the things to be tasteful, not gaudy or militaristic, so I like that approach. And, because one thing I like about the park as it is right now is that I think a lot of its strength is in its simplicity. It's not, there's not too much there right now. And it would be, that would be from my perspective, in this position would be, how do we maintain that so that it
I
doesn't
think
become-
distance, we got a lot of land.
Mhm.
So the concept is, don't interfere with what we have,
Mhm.
but add something as a satellite.
Sure.
Off to the side, in the back,
Yeah.
something that adds to the experience of walking around there and
Mhm.
seeing it, but not making it showy.
Right.
We ran into that with all of the things that we did for Veterans Day or Memorial Day or POWMIA Day, that it draws a ton of people. However, how are you gonna beat skydivers coming out of the clouds? And every year you gotta do one more thing. So it gets tough to think of stuff
Yeah.
to do, so it would be easier to have it where people can walk in on their own ambient. That thing, you don't have to entertain anybody, they can come and take a look themselves and
Right.
walk around and read, or go look at what this rock tells them, but it really has to be tastefully done.
So Dan also mentioned that these rocks need to be protected somehow with some sort of shelter on top or top of the rock, so that
Like a canopy.
the paint doesn't break down.
You have to repaint
So,
it.
so I think, with that said, I think using the Arts Council as a tool in regards to,
Yeah,
do we
that's
actually,
part of
do we actually need the canopy? Is there ways to preserve that rock for, 50 years or whatever? I'm not an arts person.
I think when the guy said, I'll give you a 100-year warranty on those pavers, bingo. We went for it, you don't get a 100 years warranty on anything. But the rock, and even if you go up there and take a look at the surfaces, weather wears everything down if it's not covered. And we're already one of our things this year is to paint the surface. But the rock, if you go down to Gerton's down there, adult playland, I call it adult playland because it's got, people are so many down there. You look at the awnings and the screenings that they have back down in the garden area. They got things that could break the sunlight, the direct sunlight. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And before we built that park, I toured a lot of other parks. Went around Rochester, Washington D.C., stuff like that, military reunions. And we got some ideas, circle ideas mostly, but you see what people put in, and down in Egan by Shields, there's a Veterans Park down there. It's very nice. But it's got some sort of open air canopy that's, the wind can blow through because that's so tough up here, that you let the wind blow through, it doesn't weather bad, and you can keep the sunlight from direct sun. So I think something like that hand in hand, and we have to get the help of a designer, like a structural engineer like DSGW did for us, and we'd have to look around for somebody who's willing to just sketch up a rock covered by a canopy with concrete around it. You can walk around the circle and then go back to the park, something like that.
And this will be phase 1 of your walking tour, right? We're gonna add another element every year as time goes on?
Oh, you mean for
We're
the
gonna
city
see-
walking tour?
No, just for the Vets Park, we'll just
Oh,
keep
yeah.
expanding.
Yeah, you go down by the Capitol, and when they put the World War II monument in, you can look at the phases of that history. USS Ward gun over on the side, the Mong monument, the Lindbergh monument. I mean, that's what they do. They make the whole grounds interesting to walk through and see. That's kind of like what we think would be appropriate to that park.
As I'm thinking about this collaboration, which is really exciting, it would be our first one as this group. It makes sense to me, this way that you own it, but we can provide some expertise. We can help also with the integration of, so it doesn't look like it's completely separate than other things in the city. Maybe there's, it's right by the bike path. Maybe there's a way that we're leading into it, somehow that we can help to create this sense of continuity, because we're looking at other places in the city as well. But you and the veterans group would be like the owners, like the chief.
But we own it now, because if people have
Architect,
a
yeah.
problem,
Yep, oh, right.
We get the phone calls.
Right.
We fix the pavers, we answer the questions and accommodate what they need at the moment. The city and, we actually go to contract, the city, their share and our share, so that if something comes up, we know exactly who's gonna do it and who pays, bottom line, who pays. So I think if this was drawn up as a project, like I remember, when you have the idea that we need to go for support of an engineering plan, because you gotta dig and do perk tests and all this other stuff before you dig in the ground. I don't wanna crush the watering system over there with a big rock, but we would need help from somebody who greases that path to a city engineer or that, and just make sure we're not missing something.
Right. And I think that, you know, that's one of the things we're talking about tonight. We're just going to start talking about what is the process for artistic projects to be done in the city. And so what are all the things that need to be considered, from working with other city departments, you know, whether it's Public Works or the city council or whoever it would be, and to make sure all those things are done, but we just don't have that done yet. I mean, we're just getting going in that. So I think that might be something that over time, I mean, I assume you're not planning to have this done next month or anything.
No.
Right, so, but as we get in there, I mean, I think it'd be good, you know, hey, you're on our list. You know, it's Freedom Rock right here. Because we've known about this as a potential project, and so we said, well, we should just plan on this being one of the things that we work on in the coming year ourselves. So we kind of, at our last meeting, we already made a short list of, okay, what do we want to try and get done next year? You know, what do we think is reasonable? And so, working on this would be one of those things, and I think once we have our process better formulated, I think that'll be something that will be really useful for us to use with our new city manager as well, and say, okay, so this is how this will go, and as long as he's okay with that too, and everybody else is okay with it, and we say, here's how this is gonna go, here's where we're at now, here's what else we need to do, and we can help smooth that path.
We had DSGW do a Gantt chart for us, and they ran out everything that we had to do step by step, and we had to follow that. You know, we had a lot of people in there for those meetings, but that worked for us. But where we hit a crunch was when it came to the documents to be filled out for legacy funds, which paid, what, 10 grand? Which is probably the cost of the rock. Then we needed somebody experienced in writing documents to the state. The state documents are always, you know, they got lots of regulations, and you gotta do it in this amount of time, and you only get this much, so, and it's creative writing, flourishes and all that stuff on there. That's important too, and that's where Jason really excelled, when he was on the team.
But I think the Arts Council offers an arm to funding, some sort of funding, grant writing.
Tell you what, I mean, there's some talent on this team right here, and some experience in some of those things already. But I also, you know, we may also need to partner with city staff as well to get some of that stuff done.
I do too, so.
So if you could just hire another person.
Hire? Aren't you all volunteers?
Yeah. Oh, he needs I need to hire someone for the city. We're all volunteers.
Jerry got 8 volunteers that didn't know they were gonna volunteer. We run into Furlong's Liquor to restock. Hey, how would you like to be on a committee? You live with it and you're glad about it. So.
Yeah. Other thoughts or questions?
Well, this is exciting. Right off the committee.
So,
Read the book. The book goes from the concept to the end, but it's step by step because we had to follow that, and it was a learning curve for us. We didn't have any idea, none of us had ever done any of that stuff before. So we wanted to capture it just for the sake, and whenever another city in the metro area comes up, we give them a book. Here, go read the book in AI. They have an idea.
And if you look at the picture in the front cover there, there's an eagle there in the clouds,
Cool.
Oh, my God.
if you can see it.
So is that the history, I'm looking to see
The
if we
clouds,
have it
the
online.
clouds itself
Is
form
that the
an eagle.
history book?
Got it.
Oh,
Do you see it?
I see it now, yes.
I don't see it.
The clouds.
Well, you really gotta be creative.
You gotta be creative.
Is that the history book? I'm looking to see if we have it published online as well. If not, we should get it published. Or is there, you don't sell those?
You
No,
really
I
don't.
was on a big ladder taking pictures, and that's one of them, and Terry saw the eagle, and I said, yeah, I see the eagle. That's a good omen.
that's good.
So Saturday, Dan and I were down at the park, and they're doing a documentary on the Gold Star families. And there's a crew from California that's actually doing a documentary on Gold Star families, and him and I were on being filmed. We should be done in about a year.
Wow,
And it might
that's
be a
cool.
pretty big,
Cool.
pretty big deal.
What was that on? For what?
Gold Star families.
Oh, there was 17 Marines killed in Sangin province in 2011 on one unit. So the producer and his brother, one of them was a veteran, is in the process of going to all these families and interviewing the families of that group and making a video streaming thing. I guess you'd have to actually. So they came by and they wanted to know why one of them was chosen as the image. And the image, like I say, was the biggest stop to our project at the time. We didn't know what we were gonna put up there. You need a greeter. Go to any monument, you'll have a greeter somewhere in that. And so they came and they felt, it's on the back page, the greeter is so we told that story and the family was there. So it was helpful to all of those who were with those 17 men and their families. We have 1,600 more books in the fire department. We're all busy.
Yeah, I got one of these at home too. So, well, I'm kind of picking up on something Trudy mentioned earlier, and, I think, maybe for next steps, just maybe as discussion begins to materialize in your meetings, I don't know if you meet monthly or?
Not anymore.
Oh.
We meet about once every 3 months.
Oh, okay.
It's mostly maintenance and what's coming up and then planning for the events.
Okay, so maybe, as you're starting to meet about the Freedom Rock, or as you said, whatever it is, right? You said it may or may not be a Freedom Rock?
Well, it's the best idea, yeah.
Okay, so, but as you're starting to have those discussions, maybe we can even have someone from this team sit in on those
Sure.
discussions?
Yeah.
We have lots of people who flow in and out of
Yeah.
the meetings that we have at the time, and they get introduced to what we're doing, and they may just do a certain job and then, be on call.
Yeah.
It's not a permanent position. It's, the shorter the meeting, the more productive.
Yeah, or do you meet at the Legion for cheeseburger Mondays, $2 cheeseburgers, or that's what we used to do with the Cub Scouts. It's the best way to get volunteers, is to meet at the Legion where you can get beer and a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
That works.
But maybe we could do that so that we can be involved in some of those conversations early on, and then as things are starting to develop, and we'll probably have more to offer as time goes on.
Our first meeting will be in January.
Okay.
And then we will talk about it, starting that project, and then come back with who's gonna take that on. You know, you gotta have ownership.
Mhm.
That person runs with it and gets all the data and makes a package,
Okay.
and then we do our thumbs up and down stuff, and then a member here would be there to see how we work.
Yeah. So, do you, would you be open to having someone there in January then, or do you want
Sure.
to wait? Okay, do you want to just let us know when you'll meet, and then
Yep.
I can put that out among the team, and,
All right, it's usually at 4 o'clock in the afternoon type of deal.
okay,
Because Sandy comes in, she's a treasurer, and we have our reports and things that are gonna happen for the year, and then go over what we did last year, so.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll just get the conversation rolling and see how things go.
All right, it's a good help, I'll tell you, when you have people drop off the committee, they got something done, they drop off, they feel good about it, then you turn around, you haven't got that person anymore, you really start scratching.
Yeah, right.
Who can give me a hand? And-
Although with a cool project,
Huh?
with a cool project, people jumped in.
Yeah, that was a 10-year project. We started in 2010.
Wow.
No idea what we were gonna do. 5 years later, it's done. Now we're still just as busy as ever,
Yeah.
mostly with events.
Okay.
Getting something that is honorable, just like this rock, but people come in. Anybody go up there on Veterans Day? We had 200, 300 people.
Really?
It's colder than heck. It's freezing or it's raining. High school comes in, so it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you for your
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah, thanks for
As
coming
this,
in.
Yeah.
as this evolves too, you know, there might be, might be more work for you guys. less
Yeah.
work for us, more work
I
for
think
us, less work for you guys.
Play it by ear, and
We'll just kinda, I think our January meeting will,
Yeah.
will kick off and, tell them that, we met with the Arts Council and kinda go from there.
we'll come to it with a spirit of collaboration and
Yep.
whatever we can do.
Yep, good.
Okay?
Nice meeting you all.
All right. See you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thanks for coming in.
Yep.
Where's that cannon now? That was that cannon fire?
It's down by the Legion.
Oh, it is,
That was offered.
We went,
Not today.
Not today.
That's a weapon. No weapons.
That, it used to be, where that cannon was, it was on this little kind of patch of dirt that went like that. And we would ride our bikes and you would go on like, jump over that whole thing, but
Seriously?
Cannon Park was the place to go to jump your bikes.
Well, Casey said it was pointing at the snowman.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh.
This guy has a machine gun.
I was
pretty prominent. I didn't want to see
Yeah.
anything, but.
I know, I didn't
yeah.
want to see it either, but.
You guys are on the same page.
I was like, I saw it and I was like, I'm just not gonna bring it up.
Yes.
Well, I was really pleased to hear what he said about their approach to the stuff, because, some of those Freedom Rocks can look a little bit like.
And this is apparently, I didn't realize this was an image of a North St. Paul
Yeah.
Yeah.
person killed.
Yeah.
So, although there's a machine gun there, it is an homage to someone the city lost, so.
I just think it's so beautiful. They have the full documentation of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so new.
Yeah.
It's a roadmap of how to do it.
And
Yeah.
1,600 more than that.
Yeah.
There's better print on demand, just saying.
Cool. Okay.
One thing I'll add is there may, if it means some connections, I would think that there would be some crossover with maybe the planning commission in terms of trails and things.
Sure, sure.
like that.
Yeah, it'll have to go through the, city planner as well for input.
Right. Okay, anybody else from the public want to talk?
We had our first from the public.
this at the beginning. It's different, right? We're legit. I know. Ooh.
Okay, we don't have any public hearings, so, business action items and recommendations, so the bylaws, was there some, we had some feedback from Soren, is our city attorney, is that right, Lisa?
You know, he never got back to me with that.
Oh,
Okay,
Yep, he told me he would, and
so are we on a hold on those then?
well, we could discuss and then maybe approve subject to
what his, yeah.
his being okay.
So he hasn't given us any kind of red line stuff or anything like that?
No,
Okay.
no.
Do you wanna just, can we bring him up on the screen? That would be
Yep,
nice.
that's exactly what I'm working on here.
Is the yellow something that we had questions about, or was that written?
Oh, it was, okay, the yellow means, so all this, and it'll be more in the detail. The yellow were things that okay, so if you look at the reference down here, these bylaws are intended to align with the North St. Paul Code of Ordinances. So most things are copy and paste out of the ordinances. However, I took the liberty to make a few changes, and where I did, I highlighted in yellow, so that we would talk about those things in particular.
Thank you for doing that.
So, from the very top then, name and purpose, basically you're taking kind of boilerplate language out of some of these other and then
Mhm.
punching in our information.
Yep.
And the purpose, there's some expansion on that with, the Arts and Culture Commission established to stimulate and encourage the creation, performance, and appreciation of art and culture in the city and advise the city council on arts related. I really like that statement.
Can we move to the next page?
Page 3?
Yeah,
Is
just
that where
keep scrolling down.
Okay,
So
Okay.
that purpose statement.
right here.
So we have the purpose statement that we came up with together.
Mhm. And then what was in the city council, they had a purpose statement for us.
Oh,
So
they did?
I put them both in there, yep, yep.
Love it.
Okay. Membership, regular members. Is it?
And that's all from the city council, the membership piece.
So, how are we gonna do staggered terms?
Right. Right, I was talking to my husband about that, that's the thing we need to talk about. And some of, I don't know, it might just be by attrition, some
Yeah.
people may just leave early because of life,
I don't think
and
it
that's
matters otherwise,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, why is the Parks Commission like 1,000 people and we're 5? Not that I'm complaining, I was just taken aback that it was such a big group.
And it's a very difficult group because of that, I would
I'm
say.
sure, because then you don't get quorum.
Just the way they
And
behave,
other things.
it's difficult.
Yes.
Like,
It just sees it all.
Okay, it doesn't matter, I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
this was really good to have just 5,
Yeah.
and to have an odd number.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why it is the number, and like the planning commission is what, 7?
Yeah,
The
7 or
planning
8.
commission's mandated though, so
It is
there's,
mandated.
yeah, so there's probably some more rules there.
And then is this veterans group, is this another commission, or is this just
No,
a,
that's a committee.
Organization.
they just
Community group.
separate?
Yeah.
Okay, got it,
External.
thank you.
So under terms, maybe I can just explain why I changed things. So the city council had their language that the term starts at the beginning of the year following the election. And I thought, who knows? I mean, maybe the new person comes in, gets elected in February and then we have to wait. So I changed it to be when the appointee is approved by the city council.
Mhm.
Okay.
They should all read that. They should take our bylaws.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
None of the other committees have bylaws. We're the only ones.
Really?
Yeah, this is the city council bylaws that I modeled it after, yeah.
Ready to scroll down?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then, it's been a while since I looked at this, so if you're okay, I'll just go to the yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so chairperson shall preside at commission meetings, blah, 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 supervise carrying out policies, have general executive powers, specific powers, conservative. I think I just added that, because maybe that didn't exist. So I took that from another set of bylaws that I made at the Humanities Center. I don't think that there was
There's nothing about
there was no
roles.
description, yeah,
Mhm.
about roles. And then the vice chair is in the chair's absence or incapacity or on request.
Love it.
Okay.
And I like the committee and subcommittees, we kind of already have done that with our, you guys worked on the bylaws, and that's great.
Okay. And then I think next page. You can just, oh, yeah, here we go. Okay. Oh, we missed something. Or is that just at the top of the page, written action? Okay. Okay, so one thing that was important to me that wasn't in the city's thing is that, let's say it's the middle of the month and we're not gonna have a meeting, we don't wanna call a special meeting, but we just need something voted on. This allows for us to vote by email.
Hmm.
Or US mail, or fax, but who does that anymore? So it's
Okay.
email.
In this day and age, why don't we have it everywhere, right?
Right.
So that makes sense. That, I can see that might be a spot where Soren is.
That's what I'm wondering, if
Okay.
he has,
Yeah.
yeah,
But-
if there's any ordinance around a requirement to be
Especially
in
for this,
person.
because this
But
is-
he'll have his input,
It's a
I mean,
Yeah.
commission that doesn't have really power, we
Yeah.
can, we're not, we
Right.
can't spend anybody's money.
Right.
Well,
Right. Well,
some-
yeah, sort of.
but everything has to be approved by the council.
That's
you know?
true.
Everything,
Right.
everything we do is we vote on recommendations to the council,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
I mean, even the
Right.
planning commission, which is kind of the most formal of all the commissions.
Right. Where I could see this coming in is, let's say we have a meeting and there's no quorum, and so we have a discussion, but we can't vote. So we can vote later by mail.
Yeah.
Or
Email.
And I also, there's so much confusion around that, because I thought that if we didn't have a quorum, we can't have a meeting.
We just can't vote.
Hmm.
It doesn't count as a meeting. We can't vote.
And I thought that was breaking the open meeting law.
Okay, we get a little further down, and it talks about how many people we need
If-
and so on.
Yeah,
and,
if a quorum is not established or maintained during the course of a meeting, no votes on board or commission business may be taken, except a motion to adjourn or recess.
Yes.
Okay, I think I got my information from the League of Minnesota.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's a good question. I mean,
yeah.
maybe we should call that out to
Yeah,
Soren too. but-
Yeah,
okay.
So the open meeting law isn't necessarily about voting. The open meeting law is
Right.
in reference to having the meeting open to the public. So whether
Right.
there's a quorum or not, the meeting is still open to the public
Exactly.
and can be held, but no final decisions should be,
Exactly.
can be made per the law
Exactly.
of what, is defined as a quorum.
Yep.
So discussion can happen and then recorded in minutes, but it's not, nothing can be voted on, except for to adjourn.
okay, and I think, and I don't want to get off track here, I'm just going back, there's been so much conversation about transparency
Mhm.
within the city, and I think that's what this all circles around.
I think the trick that's gonna be about the voting in writing is how, you address it by posting. You would probably have to amend it to say the call for, the full motion to vote and the result of the vote were added in the next meeting minutes.
Right.
I think that's the only change that might be.
And it would have to be because it's an official
Yeah,
action
yeah,
of the
right.
group. Yeah.
So, and I don't see that in there, you just have the result. That last sentence just says the result shall be communicated and recorded. So I think the only red line would be the vote itself and the result of the vote are communicated in the next minutes.
Okay, and
Does
I'm
that
not
make
sure I
sense?
understand the distinction.
So just posting the result isn't necessarily posting, like stating you're explicitly posting what the vote was for. Does that make sense?
I think you're
Give me
saying
an
the same
example?
thing.
Okay.
I think you're saying you have to have both the context and the result of the vote.
Yeah.
And you're
As
saying.
part of what needs to be published.
Yep, and that would be in,
And-
yeah.
Yep, and you're saying the same thing, just differently.
Yeah, from my perspective, the result, it includes, exactly what it was that was under consideration and what the vote was.
Yeah, she's saying you.
And I
she's
think
gonna say
that's what
yes, no,
Soren
and-
might be considering, is that is your inference enough? Is it clear enough to
Oh.
allow this?
Okay.
Or I would assume if he adds feedback, it would
I
say,
wondered where that QR code was coming from.
that ahead of the words, the result, it would be the context and the result will be published. Do you know what I
I
mean?
think it says the result and the, no, I lost
The
the word.
vote shall be promptly, it just says the result of.
I think it says,
Yeah,
yeah.
it only says
Oh.
the result of the vote.
things.
And I think that's the only thing that Soren might get hung up on. I think all of the other content in E is extremely strong. The last sentence just needs to be expanded to say, the context of the vote being called by the chairperson and the result of the vote shall be communicated and recorded in the minutes of the next meeting. And that way it adheres to that transparency that Lisa's talking about, more, like, in a more open way. Because Trudy, I get your, the result could infer both.
Yeah, from my
But it might
perspective,
not.
it did, but I really
Yeah.
appreciate that
Yeah.
might not be interpreted that
No,
way, so.
it's,
Cool.
but I don't see him striking it, I see him adding language.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. And we do that at the Humanities Center.
Yeah.
Just to get work done,
Uh-huh.
because sometimes, yeah, okay.
You may have just opened them up to a world of possibility though, because if transparency, genuinely though, if transparency has been a concern in our city, and we haven't had bylaws that actually state what the definitions of written action mean,
Yeah.
with discipline, consistency of following it through, that's huge, Trudy.
All right, but moving on. Oh, we're not there yet. I'm looking at my screen, but,
I
oh,
should be able to connect
okay.
now.
So there is a, let's see, here we go. Duties, under duties, I got some great suggestions to add more about cultural expression. So that's in there, in my updated copy here. So, for an example, number 5, under duties, to stimulate participation in appreciation of the arts and cultural expression by city residents. And so all of those, wherever it says the arts, we're gonna add and cultural expression.
Right here?
Yeah, I'll send you what I've got.
Oh, so you already
Sorry.
have it typed
I-
up? Okay,
yeah, I
okay, so
put
then I
a-
don't need
I
to
put
edit
an
the
updated
document.
version in the smart sheet.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm on, where are we? Section 10, attendance requirements. Oh, wait, am I too far? Yeah, here we go. Okay. So this is a little different than what the city council had. The city council had, if you miss, 3 meetings in a year. And I thought, well, what if you miss 3 meetings in a row? I thought we needed a quicker checkpoint than that, so I said within a 6-month period, just to be able to have that conversation. Unless specifically excused, and life happens, and yeah. And failure to attend no less than half of the official meetings within a 6-month period without excuse shall be considered as formal notice of resignation. In addition, 3 consecutive regular meetings without excuse. So it's kind of, yeah, okay. Does that make sense? Does that for people? Okay,
I'm on board.
okay.
It's basically like no-shows.
Right,
Like a no-call,
Right,
no-show.
no-call,
Like,
no-show.
we don't know what's
Right.
going on.
Right.
It's not there.
right, okay.
It's not like somebody's sick.
Exactly, that's different. Telecommunications I added, because that wasn't in there. Just, so we said it. And then I went down to section 11, continuing education. Under continuing education, I had ethics. I'm assuming we've got a city code of ethics somewhere, because I put that in
I
there.
don't know. Do you know, Lisa?
Somewhere.
Well,
In my experience,
if
we
it
haven't
exists.
followed it.
But I think we should know what it is. We should at least read it and,
Yeah.
okay.
I would think that after a previous mayor and council member almost got the fisticuffs, there was probably something that was there. What the expectation? But I don't recall ever seeing it. Although I may have read it 5 times, I don't remember.
I'll look for it and see if I can.
Okay.
Okay.
In terms of the telecommunication piece, I can see Soren maybe making a comment about that, just based off of state
Past
statute,
experience.
at least for council. I wonder if it's the same for other commissions too, so.
Help me understand.
So, during the pandemic, they had allowed, remote, and then there was kind of a switch, I think, back in July of, to what extent can you be remote and under what circumstances? So it's like you have to be in a public space when you're taking a meeting via telecommunications. So there may be statutes that Soren knows more about that may apply to this commission.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
didn't realize that, because we were having our planning commissions virtually, and everybody was just at home.
but if it
Yeah,
was Zoom, right,
Yeah,
then that's a public space,
Yeah.
wouldn't you think?
And you're
Because
inviting
people
everyone to
could.
it.
so
Yeah.
Zoom is considered the public space?
I
Okay.
think very
Yeah,
much so.
if anyone can access the link, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But that contradicts what happened to Lisa when she went, where did you go again?
I was out of the country, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and you couldn't participate?
Huh.
Huh.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys presented it, somebody was on, there was some council person on Zoom.
I think we need to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the council meetings, we were all at home. Oh my God, there's the
Yeah.
funniest thing, I have a video of it somewhere, but one of our council members, I won't mention names, Candy, it was one of these Zoom call things, it was so funny. But I don't know if she just didn't realize that she was on camera or what, but this is a formal council meeting over Zoom, and she's just eating a big bowl of spaghetti or something. And it was just like, see, it's here, and then she'd come in closer. Over and over, I'm just dying. That was so funny.
Am I being punked? Is it really happening?
I know. I could see it, and I could see like other people on the camera starting to laugh, and I'm like,
Oh, no.
Oh,
Is it
that's
still on
hilarious.
YouTube? Can we look it up?
oh, I'm sure it is, yes, all those things are
Wow,
archived.
that's funny.
Dang,
That's
that's
great.
crazy.
Well, we can say it, and if they decide
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
want to
Agreed.
talk to us, that's fine. I think this is just gonna make life easier, and as a reminder, I'm in North Carolina from middle of
Right.
December till the beginning of January, or February, so I'll be zooming in, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
should, in this day and age, there's no reason why.
Why
not.
not?
Right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. Here we go.
So you added the
Continuing
conflict of interest?
education, ethics, conflict of interest. Okay. I added this whole section, because we didn't have anything, and one option is to have a separate policy, but we don't really have lots of policies. It's
Yeah.
not that kind of an organization, so I threw in a paragraph.
Mhm.
And so, It's just, don't have a conflict of interest, but you can have a conflict of interest and just tell people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay. So, for example, I just signed my annual conflict of interest statement at the Humanities Center, and I said, hey, by the way, I'm on this commission. I'm gonna probably be asking you for money,
Yeah.
but that's not a conflict of interest. It's not gonna come to me. It'll go to the,
Oh, sure.
city and the project and so on, but I wanted you to
You
know,
just have to disclose.
because,
Yep.
exactly, so.
That sounds great.
Yeah, so this, I think all this stuff looks great, 14 and 15. I wonder if any of that's covered by some other kind of umbrella thing for the
I was
city or
wondering,
the
I mean,
state, but-
we need to have indemnification and insurance because somebody could sue us as commissioners. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to know.
so I don't know
That's
if that there's like an umbrella policy that would kind of cover those types of issues for thought.
Soren.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so that's why I think it's another one of those things, it's like, well, let Soren react to it.
Okay.
You know, it's there, and he can react to
That
it.
too, and
Okay.
if he reacts to that and actually advises the council in a way that may not have been thought about before, like, or that may not have been, like, if a mistake is made, not saying that he has, because I've heard he's very good,
Mhm.
but we have a matter of record that we talked about it, and we asked him to protect ourselves as well.
Yeah,
So
right.
thank you, Trudy.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Trudy, there's gonna be an opening for mayor next.
I'll vote for you.
There's probably always openings on the planning commission too, if you like this kind of stuff.
This is fun. The planning commission seems like it's a large group.
Well, I can tell you, getting through this, we'd be spending a few more hours yet.
Oh, yeah. Nah, just use your.
We would have maybe gotten through page 1 or something.
Oh,
Very
okay,
thorough.
so there's just that little bit, and then I want to go back to section 6, because there's a thing that is straight out of the city that we need to talk about, and it defines the quorum.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and so the last part was we look at it every 2 years, so, okay.
This section 6?
Section 6,
Six.
yeah, and section 6C talks about quorum, and this was copy-paste from the city. A simple majority of voting members, appointed and serving, shall constitute a quorum. And then if it's not established, no votes or commission business can be taken except as a motion to adjourn or recess. So a simple majority of 5 people is 3 people is a quorum on this group.
Mhm.
So if a quorum is not established or maintained during the course of a meeting, no votes on board or commission business may be taken except a motion to adjourn or recess.
See, that's what
commission
my
is-
understanding
So
was.
could
if-
you even take a vote on adopting the agenda?
No,
No.
that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
especially with the part that specifies, commission business. If you're meeting, you're discussing the business, so you
it's
can't do
basically-
that.
it's
So yes,
basically
if
all
you don't
can
have a
say is,
quorum,
well, let's adjourn.
yes.
That's interesting.
So
So,
that's
hey,
what happens if anyone, if like, a couple of us got up and were like, bye, as a protest?
Well,
then
if
none
3
us-
of us got up and said that. Because if a couple.
If
then
2
I think-
did it, then you
Right.
have your quorum, if 3 left.
oh, that's true. So if 2 people are getting together, it's not actually commission meeting anymore.
That's right.
You need 3 to make it a
That's
meeting.
right.
Okay. Okay. So you can still talk then, because you're not actually.
That's why with the open meeting law, you always have to be
Ah.
careful of having a quorum anywhere.
Right,
So if like,
right.
if Lisa and
Well, and actually.
Terry are out at Newman's,
It's not actually commission business, so.
it's not, but if another person shows up and then they start talking about
Yes.
city council stuff, then that can be construed as
Right,
a violation.
okay, okay.
So, are you saying that 2 people can meet and discuss?
Yep,
Yeah,
Technically.
yep, technically.
you can, but then there's the thing, so you can't have, what do they call it, it's like a chain meeting,
Right.
whatever. it's
Yes.
called. So
Right,
So,
You can't like,
you 2 were working,
Can't play telephone
Yeah.
throughout the whole.
couldn't tell Tom about.
Again,
Right.
Lisa can't just hold court at Newman's and have Terry, and then have Tim come in, and then have Sandy
Exactly.
come in.
Exactly.
twist each of their arms about something.
Well, it's like the two of us could talk to Casey, but we couldn't have three people talk to Casey because that would be like an
Who?
official thing. Casey from the Humanities Center.
Oh, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great job, those
Great.
are awesome.
Yeah, this is,
And excellent questions.
yeah, I appreciate your willingness to dive into this stuff.
Oh, this is so much easier than, I led the Humanities Center project.
Ooh, that had to be.
It was horrific.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was, yes, it took months. There were many people.
Yeah.
We went
oh,
back
yeah.
and forth. And then we got a new CEO.
No.
And it all started over again. It was just bad. So, anyway.
I'm,
This is good.
I'm still recovering from my time on the planning commission, so
Mm.
it's hard to look at policies.
Now, given the things that you're kind of bringing up at the end, just kind of raise the question, should we have something on diversity and inclusion? I know that that's kind of the forefront of everyone's minds these days, or is that something that the city already has that we can glom onto?
Probably not any existing statement.
Cool.
Hey, there's our code of conduct. It's not a code of ethics, but it's a code of
Oh, there you
conduct.
go. Oh.
Don't get into fist fights.
It's short, I appreciate that, it's short.
You're all full of jokes, aren't you?
What?
Always full of jokes.
I just, it is, hey, and I saw that temper flare a few times. so-
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
So are we okay with?
yes,
This, 'cause
so
pretty much-
I think we just go, this is
Yeah.
great, Trudy, and I think that when we hear back from Soren, then we'll just take his guidance on whatever, then we're good.
So, do we have a proposal for anything that you want to add for the diversity and inclusion?
I don't know, that's something that,
I don't know if that needs to fit in a bylaws.
oh, good point, okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay.
Just wanna make sure it's
Yeah.
front of mind.
It's interesting, we were just talking about this at work, because we were talking about how you fit, we're talking about, I'm like, well, how do you measure success on all these different things that we want to do, right? And one of the things was, we want to have a more diverse staff, and I'm like, well, how much more? And how will you know when it's as diverse as you want it to be? And they're like, well, we can't put a number on it, and I'm like, so how will you ever know when you've arrived, you know? And I think that's something that everybody has to kind of wrestle with now, because I think there are a lot of well-intentioned people who are saying, and some of it's obvious, we say we want more diversity, whatever, but you can't, it's very risky territory then to start putting numbers on things, or, you know, the language ends up being so vague as to being, sort of unenforceable, you can't account for it.
And what's your definition of diversity? Is it the National Science Foundation, where it's just women are
I-
diverse? Or
you
is it
know,
the National Institutes of Health? So.
I think being explicit, it might, I mean, I could see maybe like some essence of it and maybe adding it onto the purpose statement as it, reflects, the cultural piece, but, yeah.
Is it valuable to outline an RFP process as part of bylaws, or like, it's not?
Not as bylaws. Bylaws is, that's like a policy and procedure, which is different than bylaws. Bylaws needs to be tiny, because people cram lots of stuff into bylaws and then it's unmanageable, whereas bylaws are not supposed to change, and policies do.
That makes sense.
But, that being said, I'm dying to get into that whole.
She's got a nice homework assignment. Okay, so, do we want to take a vote on approving what we've got, I mean, it still has to go to Soren and come back, I
Right.
suppose, but.
Right.
Could we
Just
approve
send it to
subject
Soren?
to?
Approve
No, he
sub-
had, oh, no, because you added, did you add this in yellow? No,
I-
this is,
If you look in the smart sheet, there's two versions, and the one that has a later date, it's like 4 days later, has a few more things in yellow that added and cultural, and
so
cultural
that's the only
expression.
change that
So
you
that-
made since then?
the only one,
Okay,
yeah.
so whatever he sends back, we will incorporate that with that, your most recent document, and then we should be good.
Yeah, and then I would feel more comfortable than, voting them into, what would we say, into our thing, into reality. into
Adopting them.
Adopting them, after we get it back from Soren.
Yeah.
Voting them into adoption,
Sure.
voting them into existence. I think maybe that was the word I was looking for. So, is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
We just want to we'll move on?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So we have review and discuss the process for approving projects. And this is also in the smart sheet. Is that something that you have up, Lisa?
No, I will access that quickly though.
So if you go to 4.5.1.
Unless, Trudy, do you have it and wanna pull it up? I can let
I
you
have-
present.
Smart sheet up right now, 4.5.1. Look at that.
You might have to
Um,
refresh to get the.
My 4.5.1 says art train at Springboard for the Arts.
Let me see
We're
here.
looking at it.
Oh, you know what? It's misnumbered. It should be
Oh.
4.4.1. But I just saw that create processes and documents
Oh,
under
okay.
funding allocation, under
Yeah.
4.4. That's not what it should be. What it should be, it should probably exist.
It says 4.5 instead of 4.4,
Oh, right.
or
This should say 4.4.1.
that's what threw me on this.
So it's
I'll
kind of
change
like,
that.
project selection, so it should be under 4.3.1 probably. Create processes and documents. That's probably where that should be.
I think I have it here, Trudy.
Okay, create processes and documents. I don't see, oh, here, I
I
see
don't know
the
how
draft
How
project
can you
list,
just,
but I
can
don't
you just
see-
move an attachment from one place to another, Trudy?
Oh, okay, so this whole line, create processes and oh, got it,
Well,
okay.
It seems
Oh, so
like,
the-
it seems like that
Yes.
should be.
Move it to 4.3.1. Let's see if I
Yes,
can.
yes.
Okay, hang on. I think so.
And I see that you color coded everything.
Yeah. Tom's dream color.
Although I only use 3 colors, I see you've got orange in there.
You know what I can do? I'm just gonna move this whole line. How about that? Because that's what it is. And I'm gonna call it 4.3.1.
So in some ways, I didn't get as far as on this as I would have liked, but at the same time, these aren't meant to be done alone.
Right.
But I got something to just kind of get the conversation started. And by no means will we try and finish this tonight. And I've done these process A3s, I don't know how many, over 100.
Is there one that I should bring up?
Oh, is that you in there? Oh,
Yeah.
So that, I thought it was
that's
Trudy
what
on the
nice
screen,
to
but yeah, the
No,
one
but
that's
no.
on 4.3.1 right now, there's an attachment in there.
Okay.
There should
There's
be.
not.
Not yet. I just
No.
moved it.
Oh, I
If
see.
you refresh, it'll be in there.
There we go. I thought-
Oh, okay, there it
Color's
is.
wrong, but otherwise it's good.
That's okay, yeah.
Okay, so here it is.
There we go. So if you can scroll up a little bit.
Should I reduce this a little so we can see more of that?
There we go. So it's hard to read right there, but we'll zoom in. But so this is Arts and Culture Commission Project Selection and Development Process. And now I can't remember where I stole the phases from, but so maybe I'll just talk through this a little bit first. So this is a phase and gate style process map. So it's just one of many kinds of process maps. And I really love this style because it actually gives you a ton of freedom. Although it might look really rigid because it's in an Excel workbook and there's all these straight lines and everything, it actually allows for so much movement and freedom within it. So basically what we try and do is think of it, these at 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, etc. These are the phase headings. So each one of these is a phase. Okay? So whatever type of work that we're working on, so maybe it's like a public art permanent, public art activity, something that's non-permanent, a performance, or it could be whatever. You know, we can think of all the different types of things that we do. They're all going to go through this process somehow, but they're just going to, they're not going to hit, some of them may not hit every step. One way to think of this is like, we have an example of this map where it's flying on an airplane, right? And so, you know, there's going to be purchasing your ticket, traveling to the airport, going through security, baggage, whatever, getting to the gate, flying on the plane, getting off the plane. We all do those things. We all have to do them. But we might do them differently depending on who we are, right? So if you're like a Delta Platinum member or something like that, you might do things differently. And if you're someone who has a lot of physical needs, you might do things differently as well. So, you know, I used to think of it as like, if your grandma and grandpa that fly once every 20 years or something, that's going to be different than if you're a business executive that flies every week or something like that. But you never know, because grandma and grandpa might be pretty slick and they know what they're doing. So it really depends. It's kind of like gives you a high touch or low touch. So this is the arc of the story then. These phase headings, I like to think of it as exposition, inciting action, rising action, climax, and resolution, right? So every process is a story, and there are just different phases to the story. And then within those phases, and it's kind of, it doesn't matter what you call those phases, but what happens within those phases, those are really specific things. So ignore what you see in these steps here. These were almost things that I just took as reminders that, well, we should ensure appropriateness of the scale of the artwork. We should ensure it establishes landmarks, or it enhances the public environment, or whatever, right? But that's not an actual step. That's just a thing. So each of these things in here should be things that must happen in order to make the thing happen, right? So that's how this works. Up here, we have phase purpose, you know, so idea development. And I can't remember what's somebody else's website I stole all this from that has the Arts Commission or something. So the first purpose, idea development. The purpose of this is to clarify project ideas from all sources. You know, what are we talking about? What is it that you want? Because we get ideas, we have ideas for ourselves, we get ideas from all over the place, and there has to be this sort of intake phase where we're saying, what? What is this? Is this a real,
Like
exactly.
Triage.
Exactly, yeah, like a triage phase, right? So you're like, what are we even talking about? And we need to get a handle on that before we go to something like location analysis, right? Because it's like, and this was great, right? So Dan and Terry come in. It was because Dan and Terry both had really different ideas, and they didn't even realize it at first, right? So getting them on the same page, and us understanding, okay, so you're thinking kind of this experiential, kind of self-guided, that's going to be spread out. Okay. So now we could actually, it would make sense for us to do location analysis, right? Where would it go? What would that mean? What would the impacts be? Those types of things. Permission and permits, financing and funding, artist selection, community engagement, fabrication and installation, the last one is conservation. So we don't have to use these as our phase headings, but I thought that this is pretty comprehensive to try and get an idea of the things that we should consider, or that we may have to consider, depending on the scope and size of the project, right?
So then this is sort of like the checklist, it's a template of all the things that we need to think about and process to go through. And so potentially out of this, then for each project, it's gonna be like its own subsheet with
It's gonna be
these
its own
things.
what?
Like a subsheet of, you know, because, so it is public art, so it's, maybe it'll be on that line, but there might be, 10 public art things that we're working on.
Oh, sure,
and-
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that, and this
Yeah.
is just like the framework of how things go through
yeah,
the commission,
cool.
right? So it's not meant to be, this is how, you're not using this for each specific thing, except to just say, okay, well, where are we here now on this thing?
This is really helpful.
So we, like, one of the first, like, really big wake-up moments that I had when I first learned this system, so I used to work for Slumberland Furniture, and we used to have what we called something events, like defect events or something, where all of a sudden somebody goes out to deliver a headboard or somebody's bed, and they find it full of mold. Uh-oh. So the delivery driver calls in and says, this thing is full of mold. And we're like, okay. So that kicks it off. So then it was like, well, we better get some people over to the warehouse and cut open some of these boxes and see if they're all full of mold. Is this a one-off? Is this an unusual thing, or is it all? And then if we see that, okay, well, a lot of them are full of mold, then we say, well, now we gotta lock down all the stuff, don't deliver anything else, so now you're canceling sales and you're locking things up in the inventory. This is impacting IT, it's impacting the salespeople, it's impacting everybody in the whole system, right? So when these things would happen, and they seem to happen with kind of greater frequency, all of a sudden it would become this emotional bomb, because everybody's yelling and things are crazy and, we're breaking things all over basically. So we sat down and we built, so it's like, okay, what needs to happen and when should the things happen? We already know what we do, but what should the order be and what should all the things be that would happen? Once we sat down with each of the different people in the groups who were involved and built that map just like this, then when something would come up, we'd say, hey, this is a thing that's going on, we're now at step 2.3, handing it off to you. And they'd go, oh, okay, and they'd be like, what about, and we're like, we're already done that, we're at 2.3 now, keep going. And so then so it became very clear, and instantly all the emotion was gone out of all of these things when they would come up, because it was just like, oh, no, it's very, just very
Because there was
clear.
a plan that
There was a
people could,
plan.
yep.
It's the idea we always talk about these is like, think of it like when it's storming out, you go into a structure, and this is the structure to kind of protect you from things getting out of control. It's like, well, we have a process, well, we don't have a process yet, but the idea is when we finish this, then we say, well, this is our process, and these are the things that we need to do. So, make sense?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. So, I would say that, what we could do if you want to just play around, because I don't know how late we want to go. I notice these meetings are set up for like an hour and a half. We always blow past that, but I know Lisa's here like probably how many nights a week? Both Lisas. But, what we could do is think about like, what would be the steps that would be necessary in idea development, for example?
We could take an example,
Mhm.
like the rock and the things on our list and
Perfect.
plop them in.
Perfect. So all of those steps that are listed right now, so relevance, suitability, maintenance, conservation requirements, those things are all fine to consider, but those are not the actual steps of what will happen. So like 1.1 is like someone presents an idea to someone on the Arts Commission, right? So it could come from anywhere. So, and we're allowing for that. So if you were to write that in there, Lisa,
Presentations?
so just say someone presents an idea to someone on the Arts Commission.
You want
Project
relevance
was
taken out?
Yeah, relevance can come up.
Oh, okay.
That's just for something later.
Oh, it's right before what you were typing.
I'm sorry, could you, zoom in a little bit, I forgot my glasses.
Yep.
Oh, my kindness,
Why isn't it working? All right, let me just hit enter here so that I can zoom, and then I'll go back to that. Okay, we were, where are we?
So 1.1, someone presents an idea to someone on the Arts Commission, and that, or it could be the entire Arts and Culture Commission, the ACC. Okay? Okay, then what would happen? Then the idea is discussed at a ACC meeting?
So
Would it
that's
have to
step
be
2?
added to, so you can replace suitability, maintenance, you can clear all those cells out, Lisa.
Okay,
There's none of that's, it's all relevant to this, but it's not important for what we're doing right now.
Tom, I'm not liking your spreadsheet, sorry. Okay, let's go.
So someone presents an idea to the ACC. Do we need to add then that idea to an agenda before we just, or do we just discuss it? It could be commission
Commission updates, that's, yeah, something
reports
that's
from
running about our
commissioners,
agenda.
reports from staff,
That's not work.
any of that?
I guess it also depends on what depth of information you would want to,
Yeah.
you know.
So I think
You
it's
have a
just,
whole book, but someone can come in with a very vague idea.
Right.
did you
You
say
have a whole lot of asks.
a very
Yeah.
vague idea?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so that's why I think maybe we have a step where it's like, ideas presented to the ACC at a meeting. And whether it's vague or well-developed, you know, it's being presented, but, you know, I think this commission needs to kind of, like, consume, or, you know, digest that a little bit. And, okay, what are we talking about here?
We should have a running list, I mean, we started a running list, right?
Right.
We should put it on our running list.
Step
Yeah, I
three.
like that, I like that.
That could be part of reviewing commission business action items and recommendations too. Like, it could be an agenda.
So, Lisa, let's go back though. So the idea presented to the ACC, that should be the second step. So at a formal meeting. The first step is that, right? I mean, someone presents an idea to someone.
Yeah.
You know, the idea can come up, because these ideas come up from anywhere.
Right.
Or it could be something that just comes up from a commissioner at a meeting.
Or somebody from the public
Or somebody
shows
comes
up.
right?
Yep.
So either of these things can happen, you know, so we just want to account for these things happening. So that first one that you had there, Lisa, let's keep that one that you had in 1.1. And then, there you go, and then now in 1.2, ideas presented to the ACC at a monthly meeting. So in some instances, we may skip 1.1.
Right.
In some instances, we may not, because look, if you're anything like me, and if you've talked to anybody that you're on the Arts Commission, there are people telling you all the time about what we should do, right?
So is
Just wait till
this
you're on
your
city
way to,
council, right? People telling you all the time what you should do.
so is this your way
Sometimes
to
it's not
track
very
it, once one of you are told something if it's outside the meeting?
No, that 1.1 is just, it's just to cover that could happen. So then an idea is presented to the ACC at a monthly meeting. Now, Harry, you just mentioned something about, ACC adds to an idea tracker?
Yep,
Yeah,
to
I
our
like
running
that.
idea
We don't
list.
lose it.
Yeah,
Yeah, did we start that?
yeah, it's in the smart sheet.
Oh, it is,
right?
okay. We have like an ideas tracker?
We do.
Yeah, so, ACC adds idea to idea tracker.
4.3.3,
Oh.
that might have changed.
No, it's right, it's there,
Okay.
future project ideas.
So this is sort of brainstorming every single potential step we might have to take, noting it,
Yeah.
and then we just follow what needs to happen. Am I getting that right? Okay. just
Yeah.
making sure.
Mhm. So in some ways, you're planning for, in a sense, the highest touch project,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
or the lowest common denominator. It's sort of like, this is everything that could happen.
yeah.
Well, right now, we don't know what could happen, because we haven't
Yeah,
done
we
it
haven't done it yet.
Right.
So,
we
so,
have to consider everything.
so, like, for example, we should have, if Dan and Terry just came to us and we'd never heard about this thing before, it's like, oh, we should add this to the track. I assume we have this on the tracker already?
This video?
There we go. Step 1.3 done. And so then after we add that to the idea tracker, then what would we do? And we're just making all this up right now because we haven't done it before.
I'm thinking at some point, we need to have some sort of a rubric that we use, that we've come up with, that helps us decide if a project has merit. And it may even have merit, but maybe there's no, possible way it could be funded or something, but having a way of, what's it called? I used to do this. But anyhow, not that many questions, but a series of questions, 4 or 5 questions that we ask ourselves when there's a new project that comes up,
Yeah.
just to understand
Does
for
it check
ourselves.
some basic boxes?
Exactly.
Okay? Yeah, that's a good point. So, and I think that's something that we have to, let's think about what's the purpose of this phase. And idea development is maybe not the best name for this phase. Maybe it's just sort of like,
Idea management?
yeah, or idea intake or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
like
because,
intake.
what's the purpose of this phase?
Right,
Is to ensure the project is clear and viable.
right,
You know?
or just at least it's logged.
Yeah.
Right, because what I'm saying is with the rubric, like if somebody comes in and they get, like Terry with his booger wall or whatever, we could just say, well, this is not,
Not something the public's gonna really
Totally
get
Yeah.
for, yeah.
yeah, so that's not a viable project. So, in a true phase and gates process map, like if you're like Dan working at 3M or something like that, they use this type of thing. So it's like, it has to get through phase 1 before it'll even go to phase 2.
Yeah.
If not, go back to start over.
Right, because you can spend incredible amount of time on a project that's never gonna go anywhere if you
Yeah.
don't do the first step.
That's
Yeah.
right, that's right. So, so is the purpose here for this, to ensure that the idea is clearly
Viable.
understood and viable?
Yeah.
As like, it's a potential option for us to do? Okay.
Well, do you think we need to add a step then? Do we have to have a discussion to
Yes.
talk about whether or not it should be added to the idea tracker and or?
I think
where
should we
should
add
go?
it? Or maybe there's like a reject column.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that we have discussed that.
Yeah. We gotta make sure we've got them all logged.
Can we get
Right.
a sound effect thing into the smart sheet?
Vote
Vote no on that one.
How about the gong?
So I can,
Yeah.
I can say we add it, and then we discuss it, because it gets added regardless.
I like that.
Yeah, so keep 1.4,
add it.
1.3.
Discuss it and then,
And so then
Organize
ACC, then we would review idea against like a standard rubric or something,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I like that.
For civic viability.
Ooh,
I just made that up.
that's really good.
I couldn't figure out whatever word I was trying to say before for the life of me, but.
Now we're
And-
gonna have to come up with our rubric.
Yeah, now we gotta come up with that.
Actually, Trudy, you brought it up. And then what would we do? Does that sound like this is just about intaking the thing?
Right. That's it, right, because this is where we decide, is this something we want to spend time on ever? Is it something we want to spend time on soon? is it something that's on our list for later?
You know, and when you look at these phases as they are right now, ooh, priorities, there you go.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole point, Trudy, you're right, because it's like anything that comes in, we're saying, would we ever in a million years ever try and do this?
Right.
Because if we say no, it's done.
It's in the gum wall list.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I don't
come
know.
on.
The gum wall, I thought the gum wall was still in, it's the booger wall we said no
The
to.
booger wall.
They put it, we'll have a column, booger wall. I want you to know that that was your mayor that.
Like I said, only boys.
This sheet seems to have a rubric built into it almost in a way, like you almost, like some sort of scoring mechanism for each of the phases to test its viability, without knowing the answers to any of these, but like, depending on what the proposal is, does there seem to be a location, and how complicated is the permit process, how, like,
There's all sorts of places where
It's
this
super-
project can fail.
Yeah, and so.
like, that's what
Yeah.
they're identifying in this rubric from the ideas, is like, basically, can it fail or will it succeed? Like, right?
Oh, but we might not know, you
Yeah.
know, there might be funding out there that we just haven't explored yet or whatever. But there might be things like the booger wall that we just know.
Yeah, where we're just, you know, it doesn't fit with our, like, so if somebody came to the Dan Fisher and said, we want to put up a big pickup truck with some guns sticking out of it at the
Right.
Veterans Park, and he would be like, that doesn't fit our image for this.
And we log it in our list. And
it goes in
yeah,
the booger wall.
it goes.
Well, but we can say that we've reviewed it. And
That's
Exactly.
right, and now we
Exactly.
have a record of it, it's like, oh yeah, pickup truck with guns, yeah, we talked about that, and that's a no.
Right.
As part of
But
it,
you
do
could
we
also
want
back
to-
your reasoning for,
Justification.
That's
Well,
right,
right.
because it,
It didn't fit the rubric. See, that's the
Yeah.
blessing of the rubric.
As
Yeah.
part of
It's-
our process, though, do we want to add providing like a decision to proposals?
Oh, good
ooh,
point.
oh, yes,
yeah.
great
Like,
point.
and feed, like, because just because it didn't fit at one meeting doesn't mean someone can't go back and like revise and revisit and
That's right.
repropose.
Yes, so 1 that's a great point. So I think 1.5 should be, like, I don't know, communicate decision, or what do we want to do there?
It could be after prioritize. I could say, you know, communicate decision, because we can let them know then, yes,
Yeah,
this is
sure,
great,
it
it's
can,
not gonna
yeah.
happen this year.
Yep.
But it's on our list.
Or,
And where-
yes,
so-
this is great, we have some concerns that we'd like you to further
Right.
Or-
address before we make a decision, before a decision is final.
Or it's in the
You know.
BW column.
Well, part of prioritization might be, good project, but it needs further understanding and definition, something like
Well,
that.
That's
Yeah.
that's another good one, so that's another step that could potentially sit in here. So say if you have, let's just throw these in, we can always rearrange them too, Lisa. So if you have in 1.5, communicate decision, and then a separate step could be reach out for more information. And then that's just a step that's if needed. You know what I mean? So you skip that step if you don't need to do that step, but that would be a step you may need to do. And then you prioritize the project. And so this is, I like this because it's, you know, somebody could come in and say, I got this idea for this huge thing, and you could be like, that would cost $1 million, but it's fantastic. We're gonna put it on the list
Right.
for next year.
Yeah.
No,
if needed, I'm sorry, what was that? If needed.
Reach out for more information.
yeah, right.
Actually, I think the really big projects are easier to fund.
Or what?
Easier to fund, in a way.
Easier to
Go
fund?
big,
Oh, yeah,
go
right.
bold, and you
Yeah,
get the
right.
bucks.
Yeah. And then prioritize project. So at the end, so this, what that vertical gray bar after says, project and scope is clear and documented by ACC. So what we're trying to get at here, that's the gate. So that's kind of like the outcome of the phase. So if the outcome, the outcome should be reflective of what the purpose of this phase is. So if the purpose is to make sure the idea is clear, viable, then the outcome is that the project size and scope is clear, it's documented by the ACC, and then it moves on.
Yeah,
So do you think those steps would help us get to that?
that's great.
Okay, so I like that. This is why it's so much more fun to do this with people. You can't, and so normally what you would do when you would do this is you just watch it happen, and you just document. It's like, well, this is what's happening right now. You may not realize it, but it's all happening. But we haven't done it yet, so we're kind of making it up.
And we can always revise this if we are going along the way.
Absolutely. This is made to be, it's a tool to use and change as needed. And so what we do later in this, just like we do with the directional A3, which is now in the smart sheet, is we rate those things as well. So we can go 1.1, 1.2, yeah, those are both green, but 1.3, we keep forgetting to add things to the idea tracker, so we're gonna rate that one yellow or whatever. And then ACC reviews idea against standard rubric for civic viability, and we think that one is really unfair, or it's not catching the right things. We really have to redo that rubric. So we'd rate that one red, and then just capture that's the opportunity for us to get better at how we do this stuff.
Cool.
Makes sense? Yeah.
So would we use this sheet, or maybe, we do we copy this, create a new tab, for something like our project, our rock project, and then we could be putting in our notes or something? Is this also used to track what we've done, or does it need to, do we even need that?
I got another A3 for that.
Okay, okay, all right.
Well, kind of to Dan mentioned that they had, this company came up with this whole Gantt chart. So there is a work improvement plan A3, which is really just, it's sort of like taking a charter and a project plan and a Gantt chart and jamming it all together in one page. But that's kind of the thing. So now you're mapping out, well, here are the key steps we need to take for this thing.
Cool.
And so you don't have to have every one of those steps listed, because you might not do all those things. But
Right. Cool.
this is just kind of to be this overarching process. This is how things go through this commission.
Okay. Is there somewhere a step in here then after it gets prioritized, and before we do additional work, that then there's this other chart that's then, put together for this project? There's a charter, there's the whatever,
Yeah, we could do that.
before we start doing any of this analysis.
So it's sort of like, do we, project plan or team is assembled, or project management, that's a big thing we talked about, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
how do we manage these things?
Yeah.
I also
Yes.
think the city council has to approve whatever idea we're going forward with before we move on to.
Well,
beyond this
I think we would probably do, and this is where I think, this doesn't even have council as approvals, well, permission and permits, that'd be council probably. But I think, and so location analysis, that may be the right thing, it may not. There could be other things we could put in here, but it could be, we may have to, we can have a rubric to say, is this viable for our city? And we can say, hey, yeah, we really want to do this. But you still have to get a lot more information probably. And so I think of does location analysis and then artist selection, or do those go closer together? And then, permission and permits comes later, or,
It may vary by the project.
it could.
And I'm wondering at what point, or maybe points, does the city council want us to come? My thought is they don't want us to show up with a project that we've got no definition of it.
Right.
But on the other hand, I don't want, like, the community having been, totally into something, and they're thinking that this is gonna happen, and then they're the ones to say, no,
Exactly.
we're not gonna do
Yeah.
it. So, where does that make sense?
Yeah.
To me, it seems like the council could step in at any point and say no to any of these, like.
But when do we wanna go to their meetings?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna say no until we present something to them.
So, well, my question then is how much work do we want to put into each of these projects before we do present it to them? Because we need to know, like, what's our risk
Yeah.
mitigation of investing all this time into something that we might be really involved in, to present it to council and have council be like,
So,
no, not
I
interested.
think that's a
or-
big reason why you have a council liaison.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we would, Lisa can help
I can-
keep the finger on the pulse. And it's something she could even mention, so at the end of every council meeting, it's like council liaisons give updates to what's going on with their commissions and things like that, and they can throw some of these things out there, or things can be brought up in a workshop meeting or something like that. Just say, hey, just so you know, this is something that the Arts Commission is thinking about.
Yeah, so one thing, I think could be potentially helpful is kind of like, how are you prioritizing? It seems like in the last meeting, there was a list of what are our 2022 goals, and presenting something like that to the council, to pre-approve, and then, any projects in there. There is some visibility on it already in the agreement, and then it kind of matches,
Yeah, with the caveat that, maybe some of these won't happen.
Right,
Like the
yeah.
art, the ice and whatever it is.
Fire and ice.
Fire and ice, yes.
Yeah, and we have things that, like a capital improvement plan that we, look at and we approve, and it can change, like, it's a plan.
And I think, our responsibility is, I think, to make sure we're not bringing anything that's kind of half-baked to the council. And so we have to do some work, and then I just think, look, we're bright people. If we come up with something, we think this is a good idea, we've already talked about it, we've talked with probably other people about it, and we do some research on it, we bring it to the council. I don't see them shooting down a whole lot of ideas.
Yeah, I think it'll just come down to like funding,
Mhm.
what
Right.
are, we'll have to approve the grants that are being sought out. And then,
Yeah.
a lot of it just comes down to funding too.
Yeah.
So maybe if we, I don't know, after the permit, like, there's kind of two different parts for permits and approvals or whatever. Like, I could see the pre-process happening annually of like submitting the ideas list or the goals list to council for pre-approval, and then not going back for formal, like, this is happening approval until after we have the funding in place? Or is it before we want to apply for funding?
Yeah, you'll wanna ask for, for, if you're going for a grant.
And there may be other things
Yeah.
too that, we may not need council approval, like the fire and ice thing. If we were gonna do something with we were gonna have high school kids there.
Yeah,
And they have some of their art displayed or do something like that, and if it's not costing any money,
Right.
if we're not spending out of the taxpayer money, I don't need to go to the council and have that approved.
I could see as a courtesy, sort of an FYI, so it could be, now that we're getting, we have a list, so it could be on this list, and then, maybe they don't need more details about.
Could maybe be a consent agenda item.
Does that mean like, I'm kind of hearing two lists, one of like projects and one of like goals for activities we want to participate in the public or something, like,
Yeah,
What
so
we're talking about?
again, if you go all the way off to the left on this thing, it
Yep.
shows kind of the different types of things. So if you have, if there are activities, that could be a thing where it's like, okay,
No cost activities.
there's no cost, we don't need any kind of permits, we don't need help from the Public Works Department, we don't, there's nothing, there's no resources from the city are being used.
But I could see it being a courtesy to
Mhm.
give them the heads up and having that be that.
Yeah, so with all these things, then we just say, okay, so where does that have to fit in to the process? And I think we're gonna have to have things fairly, well thought out, to some extent to present to the council for approval if there's funding that's required. Or if it's really if it's a permanent installation that's gonna change the landscape of the city in some way.
Yeah, I could see, the planning commission having consulted with them first,
Mhm.
and then having consulted with maybe, some other documents, like right now we're working on the redevelopment master plan, in which they wanna include arts and commission as the guiding principle too. And so just kind of cross-referencing with other commissions before
Yep.
coming to the council.
So like in permission and permits, or maybe there's a better name for that, we could just punch in there right now, review with planning commission, review with, in like 3.1, not there, but just, I'm sorry, keep that. And then 3.1, you could have review with planning commission. And then the next one could be review with Parks Commission. Those are the two we'll probably work with most. And then,
Maybe the EDA,
what?
maybe the EDA, but.
Maybe EDA. Review with the EDA. And all of those will just be as needed, right? And then you have, present to council for approval.
As needed.
Yep.
And I was gonna say, part of that is within the permits, because when we do a special event permit, a lot of those are, a lot of that information is included in the special event permit.
Yeah, that's what I think, like, there probably should be a step in here that's review with city manager. Because the city manager is, if there are like permits or public works involved, or fire department or something like that.
Yeah,
We lost the screen. Just-
yeah, I lost my connection again.
Oh, no.
I'll get it back.
But,
Cool.
does this seem okay to keep playing around with it? Maybe we can knock out another phase
This is
every
great.
time we meet, and we'll kind of keep talking through it. And then as we start doing this, we'll start to see, okay, is this. But I think this is all good discussion, like, yeah, well, when do we need to talk to the council?
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, at the end, in the middle, all three?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on the project.
Yeah, depending on the project, yeah, so maybe you gotta, so we can keep discussing those things, but at least this way it'll put it in black and white for us, so that with each thing, we kind of like, well, this is our plan that we agreed on, this is how the process should work.
Very cool, thank you. It's huge.
Yeah. I love doing this stuff, I do this all the time.
Sounds like it's your job.
It is. It's a big part of it, yeah. Or it's, well, a big part of it.
So I'm not,
We use about 5 different types of A3s. So we have a directional A3, process A3, a work improvement plan, measurement A3, which is kind of the key data, performance data, and then problem-solving A3s. And so it's not just, all of this stuff is just built on lean principles.
yeah. Do we want this as a separate document, or do we want to incorporate this into our smart sheet?
Well, as long as it's attached to the smart sheet, we can always just go to it from
Okay.
there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
then we've got the source.
Yeah,
Would
right.
it be more beneficial to copy and paste this into a Google sheet that's incorporated into the smart sheet? Instead of as an Excel, because especially while this is still a working document, Google Sheet, the work we do right now is gonna be boom, and you don't have to re-upload anything to the smart sheet.
Well,
Whereas this now is gonna have to be re-uploaded into the smart sheet.
does it?
Isn't it
Are we
saving?
working right out of the smart sheet?
Yeah, and
No,
I'm
it's
saving
No,
it.
not the
Excel file.
attachments.
Oh.
This is an Excel file.
Oh,
So,
really?
So that's the
Where,
benefit
where
of
am I
Google
saving
Sheets.
it to then when I keep saving it?
Your desktop that you downloaded it from?
I
Although
didn't
you're-
download it, I just opened it.
Right, but that's considered a download. So if you go under downloads, you'll see that it should
Oh,
come up
yeah,
as
right
the
there.
ACC. So
Darn.
that's the big benefit of cloud sharing Google
Yeah,
Docs.
okay.
Is
Right.
the updates that Lisa just did would be reflected in the link that's already in the smart sheet.
Can we get the cool formatting? Because it's
Yeah.
cool really?
Google Sheets does everything.
Like,
as
Well,
well as Excel.
or can this just be in your OneDrive or in a OneDrive, or we don't all have access to
We don't have
OneDrive?
OneDrive.
So basically, if you copy the sheet, I mean, you would have that one folder, that shared folder already, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I
you
can
use-
help do that lift to transfer it over, but it's
And then in Smartsheet, we can put the link.
correct.
And
There you
then
go.
And that's
still,
There you
what
go.
Carrie has for the idea.
Yeah, because I don't use Google Sheets, so I don't know, but, because is it still in it's still in the same formatting and everything? Yes.
So
Let's see
when
if
you're
I
in
can just
Excel,
do
if you
this.
copy the entire workbook,
Uh-huh,
you can go into Google Sheets and highlight the entire workbook and paste format in. So you can copy the format from Excel into Google Sheet, I believe.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sure.
cool.
I'll try it right now.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Well, and I didn't, Trudy was trying to access some of the documents, I didn't realize I had them on lockdown, I didn't mean to do
Well,
that, so
When
I'm changing them
the-
now.
No, that's okay,
Sure.
the standard, when you create a Google thing, there's standard settings. So you can do format only
Yeah.
first, and then the second time you paste everything. That's how I do it, because I think it's
Ah.
tricky with me.
Okay, so format only, and it's not.
You have to say got it or something.
I
It's
did,
probably
and it's
stopping
not
you.
accepting
It
it.
actually takes a while to think.
Oh.
Okay.
There it is. But it's not perfect.
Yeah, I can see. Well, actually, it looks like just this.
Can you import an Excel sheet through Google Docs, I thought?
Can you?
Like file?
So that process didn't work, but Lisa might be onto something.
I thought you could import them.
Import right there. 3 down.
Import.
And then
Oh, it has
go-
to be on that drive already. Okay, so I'll
go
just,
to upload. And go to select from my computer, from your device, and go to downloads. And then go to the, whatever the spreadsheet is that you just saved. At ACC, yeah. And say import data, and see what happens,
Wow.
yeah.
do I open now? Or do I have to
No, it's
import?
just import data.
It says it's successful. Yeah, open it.
Open now.
There we go.
Hey,
Wow, look at
So-
that.
hey,
In that, then that's where you
Love it.
share it, and that's where, in the
Uh-huh.
shared setting in the top right, or right there too, yeah.
Publish to web or share with
Share
others?
with others, and then that's where you open the permissions up.
oh, yeah.
So that's where you'd add all of our email addresses as editing people, and then that's where you'd also be able to copy the link. Because we're public, you can change the link setting for this, if we need to be able, and the link setting could be anyone with the link has view-only access.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
Yeah.
so this won't be an attachment then in our smart sheet?
So,
It'll be a link.
see on the copy link on your screen, that's where we get the hyperlink that
Yeah.
we put into the smart sheet. So that in the smart sheet, when they click on it, we'll open this Google Sheet every time.
Cool.
Got it, all right.
This is
Oh,
awesome.
restricted.
And so the link setting say got it, because this is your first time going through Google Sheets, and that's
Mhm.
why. So the down arrow next to restricted,
Yeah, not good.
that down caret,
Anyone with the
you
link?
can say anyone with this
Yeah.
link,
That's nice.
and then on the very right-hand side, it says viewer, keep it as that,
Okay,
and then at the top,
Oh, can we put editor?
editor,
no,
Don't you want
no,
anyone to edit?
no,
Not yet.
you want the public to only be able to view this, always.
You do not want that.
And the way that you do this, so then you say
Public.
done, because that's just your link settings. But if you
Okay,
go, a quick shortcut on the top right-hand side, there's a green button that says share. If you click there, now at the top, that's where you would add our 5 email addresses
As editor.
as editors.
That's really cool.
And then, depending, I mean, if we had a team drive set up, for us, we could still make all of the documents within the team drive viewable with the link and post those document links. This is where Soren would be happy, because I think he was concerned about Google Drive, or there was questions, maybe just, like, there are ways that Google can
Then
be
they can
viewable.
see it, yeah, and just not
That
mess with it.
anyone with the link has view access.
That's cool.
And so that's where you'd put all of our emails in, so that once this link that you have up there is shared, if you are Terry Furlong and you click the link, you can only view it, but if you're one of us at this table, we can edit it.
all right, so should probably get everybody's email in there then.
The cool thing about this, Lisa, is that you could make suggestions to your other committees to save yourself work in the future. If they do if they do a lot of Excel work, or even
They don't,
Word document work.
They
like
don't.
With minutes and whatnot, whatever it might be.
well, and we use Civic Clerk for that.
But if you ever have any other projects, Google's the way, it's so easy.
Sure.
Yeah, there's, discussion on whether Google may be a better.
Yeah,
alternative.
we might move to that platform.
Oh, that's
Very cool. This is great.
Well, I think I made all my links public, so if anyone wants to edit anything I've said, I'm happy to add anyone, edit all the things, just go nuts.
All right, so now to get back to,
You okay?
Yeah.
You all
Swear I
right?
have that happen like once a year, where it just can't do anything.
yeah. Okay, you should all have it now, so what do we need to do back in the Smart Sheet then?
There's a shareable link that you made.
Let's
If
see,
you copy
yeah,
that.
I don't even remember which one of these is the Smart Sheet icon.
I think it's gonna be in one of your web browsers,
It'll,
Okay.
yeah.
in a tab at the top, right there.
Okay,
Yep,
let's see, I'm gonna close that.
yep, to the right, there,
That's the, okay,
that's the smart sheet.
all right, and remove this link. Sure.
Well, hang on, so let's see, we're gonna, we might wanna create a, what is this? This is, where are we?
Attached file.
Yeah, but I want line. I want
So should we
line
delete
data.
this first to avoid any confusion, because we're not gonna use this file, this attachment?
Oh, yeah, or you don't need to delete it, yeah. Oh, yeah, I just worry about things
Oh,
being gone before you have the new thing, but no, we're good.
okay,
It's on your hard drive. Okay, okay.
all right, so then we wanna add a link there.
Yeah,
It might be
Let's-
add like that attachment through Google Drive, do you know what I mean?
right, not as an attachment, so, what we could, if you wanna create a, let's see,
Because that was one of the options,
It's one of the options.
is Drive, so if you
So if you click
attach,
attach files to row 78.
yeah, if you go to attach files to row 78,
Or
and then
that.
the file you pick from is Google Drive,
Yeah.
and that'll hyperlink it directly.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, say that again,
Really?
attach
Never done that before.
So move your
Rosa?
cursor all the way to the right.
And down.
And down, where it says.
Don't
blue
drag
box.
anything, but there's a dark
There
blue
you go.
box. Yeah.
Click it,
Click that,
see what happens.
and then
Google
up
Drive.
to Google Drive. Or you could do URL right
Yeah.
there. Click URL, because you already have the link copied. Then paste the URL in there, and then you can hyperlink.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's just the,
That was your,
my email address. Okay, so the URL is here.
Under share.
yeah, In the
So
top
exciting,
right.
I love learning.
the green, yeah. That's so cool.
And then bottom copy link. Yep.
Okay, and
Wow.
then go back.
One
How'd
more.
you get your picture? It has that square around it.
It's kind of funny, like, so I was like,
give it
at
a
an
name.
angle in the picture and I cropped it and then it somehow
Yep,
wound up.
it's there.
Square.
I don't know how I did it.
Okay, it works.
And you
Very
can
cool.
also name that link, so it
Yeah, that
looks
might be nice so
clean.
we can see it.
So if you
Three.
go to the three dots, yeah, you're highlighting it right, down.
No, we'll go right here. Right here,
Oh,
right here.
Yep, there you go. And then you're gonna wanna do rename.
and this is the,
And when you originally,
what the heck happened there?
you clicked out of it accidentally.
Okay. Rename. And we're gonna name it ACC.
Process.
That's it?
That works.
I wonder if that named it right, if that took away.
Yeah, that's great.
I think it did.
Yep.
Go.
It works.
Nice.
So it looks like there's an attachment, but it's just a link is what?
Yeah.
That's really
Okay.
cool.
That's
Cool.
Great.
Love it.
Hey, feels like progress.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we okay moving on from that for now? We got some progress on that. So old business, update on fire and ice. Who wants to do that? Lisa Ritchie?
Yes, and as you know, it's been canceled, so I just wanted to announce that formally in the meeting, so we have it on record.
And why was it canceled?
Due to COVID.
To COVID, okay.
Mm-hmm. The rise in COVID, there was concern.
That's happening everywhere. We got emails from the district today warning
So-
us that we're gonna pivot to online soon, basically, so.
Right,
Yeah.
this new one, Omicron.
I don't think it's even any variant, I think it's just the communicability of the disease.
Mm.
It's just spreads,
Mm-hmm.
so.
I think they're still learning more about the severity of it.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Okay. Reports from staff. Lisa Ritchie again.
I do not have any further reports.
Okay, reports from commissioners. Trudy, you wanna start?
Sure. So the first one is that Tom and I met on a phone call or Zoom, I can't remember what it was, but with Casey Demaris, who is at the Minnesota Humanities Council, and had a great long conversation, and I put the notes in, just now, I put the notes in the smart sheet, and so Lisa, if you want to pop that open, it's under funding, and it's Humanities Center, so 2.1.4 is the attachment. And it probably, yeah, there we go. And it might have gone up to your, because I didn't save it as a PDF.
It said it could harm my computer.
Oh, it'll be okay, I think.
Oh,
Okay, maybe you can't read it. It's all right if you can't read it. So I wrote notes in my thank you, and so she talked about some basic funding things, which is really helpful. And so I'll skim really fast. So there's the Statewide Arts Board, and that receives 51% of the arts and cultural heritage funding. And they have their focus on art funding, and they will fund individual artists and also nonprofit organizations, but not government entities. So if we want money from them, we need a partner. And so we can partner with individual artists and they will fund them, or we can partner with other nonprofit organizations and they will be the lead, but we can partner with them. And Casey's going to help us identify contact there. There's also the Minnesota Historical Society. Their focus is historical context. And then the Humanities Center. Humanities Center focuses on traditionally marginalized communities. And they have a preference for funding organizations that are led by those communities that are affected. So partnership, again, those communities, they want it to be, so let's say there's just right across the border, not even very far from North St. Paul, there's like a Hmong community organization. We could partner with them, but they would need to lead the project, and then Humanities Center might fund it.
Or like the Veterans Organization for Freedom Rock,
If they're nonprofit and if they're a marginalized community.
would veterans be considered a marginalized community?
Well, they might. We have a Veterans Project.
There's veterans preference in the federal government.
And we have a big Veterans Project at the Humanities Center, Veterans Voices, so yeah, maybe. They can also make grants to individuals. And they got $5 million in funding from the Legacy Amendment. They've got 2 years to spend it, and there's going to be 3 grant cycles. The first one has already started, and the deadline is the 3rd. So we're not going to make that one. But then there's 2 more. So in the summer of 2022, and then and then the winter of 2022, and I've got the web links. So I sat in on the Zoom meeting that they had that explained how this all works. And it's pretty much like what they said before. So we would need to partner. And if it's under 20,000, it sounds like it's pretty darn easy. If it's over 20,000, then there's more steps to go through. But I don't see why we can't get a grant from them. So we just need to find the right partner and a project that makes sense and that fits our rubric, and go for it. And you can go for more than one grant. It has to be a different project. And we can also, Casey said this, partner with the Humanities Center as a thought partner as we explore how to have community conversations and dialogue about how to bridge our arts and culture work with meaning. Potential collaborators, she talked about, there's something, Monument Lab, I think City of Roseville is big in that. Public Arts St. Paul, the Humanities Center is developing a big relationship with them. And I'm thinking, well, we're North St. Paul, and so we're not St. Paul, but Public Arts St. Paul, it can be thought of more broadly. And so, we might be able to add into that as they're building coalitions with other cities. Roseville Arts Commission came up because one of their staff, Eden Bart, is involved with them in a big way, and they have events at the library, monthly stuff. So Roseville might be a
But there's not an arts commission there, like a foundation. They're like separate from the city.
Separate from the city.
And that's why they could be a partner with the Humanities Center, because
Got it.
they are not a government entity.
That's really interesting.
Well, we
But
just
that would
need
be
to
a good
form our
partner.
own foundation.
There we go.
Exactly.
Let's break loose of the city.
The commission was in place
Such a
for 3
rebel.
months.
And we went, oh.
Okay. General
Tell
note.
Terry that one, Tom.
We don't need the city.
We're
More
moving
money without
on.
'em.
That's right. So some general notes. There's going to be the U.S. 250-year celebration, which is coming up before we know it. That's 2026. So
It's just like
with
so
the
weird.
Humanities Center, their focus would be on who was or wasn't present, who was marginalized at the time or is now. And then, what's the vision looking for in the next 250 years? So it's something they're thinking about already, and it could be a longer term
Does our
project.
city have any connections with tribal partners?
City?
I don't know.
City
Well, I
alone.
mean, we're all on tribal land, arguably,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so if we could identify what that tribal land is here, which is very sensitive to longtime North St. Paul residents because they were farmers, and I don't know, this could be, if that's an opportunity coming up
Right, yeah.
to honor that
Yeah.
in a way.
Okay, and then there may be opportunities for us to get planning money. It's harder to get, but it's out there. But then she thought as we get to be more project-based, funding may be more available. And we need to understand the funding cycles of all these places. So there you go. I thought it was a good meeting. I have not heard back from her since then. So I think it's she's said that she would be happy to be kind of like a guide and mentor for us, which I thought would be great.
Yeah.
I can't believe that meeting was in between these last meetings for this group.
Yeah. Do you have any further reflections from that? Okay.
No, I thought that was really a good, interesting information,
Yeah.
especially like what kind of projects are favored and where the money goes. Like when you look at the, excuse me, the Statewide Arts Board, 51% of the arts and cultural heritage funding goes there. And they'll fund individuals and nonprofit organizations, but not, so it's like, okay, well, that just means we have to think about it differently, how to get the things funded.
Right.
Because,
It's partnerships.
yeah, you think about it, if we're doing a mural, for example, well, we can take care of getting everything cleared up and making sure everybody's okay with it going where it's going and everything like that. And we tell the artist,
Here's where you can get your
here's what we're
funding.
doing, and you buy all the paint and we'll get the money for you, so.
Right. It might be the artists that actually, we're partnering with them, but they get the money.
Yeah,
They
we
they
refer
get all
them.
the funding for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it never really even goes through us at all.
right.
So, the other update I have, which is tiny, but I liked it. So, you know how the City of North St. Paul made it available that you could go and get your catalytic converter
Yeah.
pointed? And so I did that, and I was waiting outside while they were working on the thing, and the police chief came over and introduced himself. And so we had a conversation, and I said, hey, and by the way, I'm on this new arts commission, you should know about us, and we may want to talk with you, because, what if we need to block off a street or something like that, and he was all for it, so.
Feels great.
We would like the police cars to be pink. Flowers. They blend in too much right now, we can't tell you there.
With the snowman logo.
Oh, they had a sticker, I don't know if any of you got that, you get a sticker too, with the snowman on it, it's the best. And so would-be catalytic converter thieves will hopefully find this little sticker on your window and know that this is not a car to mess with.
That's
So I didn't know about this, so what do? They paint your catalytic
They
converter?
paint the catalytic
And they
converter
numbered
and they
it.
put your VIN number, etch it into it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and they partnered with Hillcrest Alignment right down here. So it was at Hillcrest, and then the Public Works employees did the work.
It was fast.
I had a catalytic converter stolen once.
Did you?
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a drag.
See, we need to get some more of those stickers, because then they really wouldn't know,
Yeah.
Right?
you know?
It's just like having a sign in your window that says, this house protected.
Yes.
Whatever.
Honestly, I don't think they're looking for window stickers.
Oh,
It's so fast and so quick, and it's an act of desperation.
Anyhow, that's all I got.
That's awesome.
Gary.
I was also doing a little grants work, so MSAB might not support us, but their, Metro Regional Arts Council will, so I looked at their guidelines and I'll share it around, but I think we could really make a good case for it, it would just depend on what we'd wanna do, so they're either going to support like a production or a series, like a semester of painting classes, or the arts wagon, or being at the car show with teaching artists, or any other ideas we had. $15,000, Ramsey County, and government entities are eligible, so.
Oh, great.
I remember years ago on our former Arts Council, there was a representative from the Metro Regional Arts Council that came in and presented, and I know we did partner with them, and work with them, so, yeah, that's another thing that might be nice down the road, where we have different people come in and
For sure, yep.
present.
And I listened to their YouTube presentation, which was great, it's all accessible, so he described all the images in the YouTube presentation, he had a really fun time picking all these different X shapes and describing them all. So that was good, and then they have, you can have a meeting with the people to talk more about your ideas. But, yeah, so deadline's coming up in March if we wanted to pursue something like that, but we'd have to narrow down what we wanted to.
Carrie, are they more like, less kind of like public art installations and more like active, or activities or performing?
Either
arts?
one.
Yeah.
So it can be capacity, like rebranding, building a website, overhauling your financial tracking systems, which I know we are in dire need of, or the purchase of equipment. You just can't buy real estate, or like no renting spaces, which I have no interest in doing, so.
Cool,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
That's
that
great.
sounds good.
Anytime you can break down the barrier to arts.
Yes.
They support it.
Great.
So, yeah, could be fun.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing weird.
I have nothing to report, you did.
Okay, I don't have anything either. Okay, reports from council liaisons.
We have made an offer to a new city manager, and I think that everyone is pretty happy. I think overwhelmingly between staff and council, yeah, really excited to have him come on in January. His name's John Stark. He's coming to us from the city of Richfield. His background is in planning and community development, so I think he'll have a lot to offer. And I encourage this group to definitely build a relationship with him and meet him.
Isn't that the same name of Iron Man?
That's Tony Stark.
Oh, that's Tony Stark.
You're close. I keep thinking Jon Snow, but,
Oh, yeah.
So that's exciting. And then actually the fire department, they do a little arts contest locally at the schools. So maybe in the future, partnering with them around that. But I think they had, I don't know, it was like hundreds of applications, and the kids win prizes if they're in the top.
Yeah.
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 So they had the poster contest. And then I think some of the top winners will go like to like a statewide contest.
Yeah.
So
They've done that for eons, yes.
My daughter won it once.
Did she?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for as long as
Or
I
was
can
it you?
remember.
It wasn't me.
Great.
They probably did it when I was a kid too.
Yeah. So that's something, and then the redevelopment master plan group, which is representatives from council. We have 2 there, and then 2 from the planning commission, and then 2 from the EDA. We're just kind of reviewing the redevelopment master plan, kind of updating it, but they want to include arts and culture as definitely a guiding principle, so they want to add that. And I did let them know, in the last meeting, from what I remembered, people were taking pictures of potential spots, and they would be interested in probably viewing, some locations that, especially in the downtown area, so that's kind of the scope of that redevelopment. But yeah, just having a little bit more, input into what that plan might be with your perspective from the arts and culture.
Would they want somebody to come is it? Or?
What they,
Or I can-
what they requested is, I'm just gonna reference your smart sheet for now. So I think maybe down the road, it might be, an idea for a representative to come and present, but right now they're just trying to get an understanding of what our ideas are and what direction we're looking to go.
Yeah.
Some point.
Call them home run. That's what we're.
Yes,
I
yes.
would love to get a Chuck U, do you know who Chuck U is?
No.
Chuck U. Farley?
I don't know. His name
It's
is
the only one I know.
Chuck U. He's a Minneapolis artist, but he does, if you're familiar with the beer cans that we do for, is it Indeed Brewery?
Oh.
But he's got murals around town too, and there's one, I think you should. If you see his stuff, you'll probably go, oh, yeah, because it's so distinctive. But there's a great mural that my bus goes by every day, and I'm like, man, that is so cool. But like, here's an example of one of his murals.
Yeah.
A cat and a dog, but it's, a lot of it's
Oh, that's
animal
great.
related, but it's
Nice.
like the kind of really high
Oh.
detail stuff. But I think it's Indeed Brewery where he does all the beer can labels.
You could do a snowman hat.
Did you say
A
so?
snowman hat, like the big dog. That'd be cool.
Everyone's
Trudy,
interpretation.
you've already been
Love
sucked in.
it.
You already.
You drank the Kool-Aid.
You've been brainwashed by the snowman stuff. It's all over. Everyone, we've lost Trudy.
Well, I have to say, Trudy and I are on this side of the table, though, 'cause I'm a fan of the snowman.
Well, okay, so picture 5 years from now, there's hundreds of art installations, and children go on this, it's like, where's Waldo? And they go looking for the little snowmen, because
It'll
there's
be
snowmen that are
incorporated into
hidden
the art
in
somewhere.
the art somewhere, yeah, yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
listen, I love the snowman too, I'm just kind of like, can we have anything else?
We can add to the snowman.
Yeah.
We can have an additional.
Like,
Yeah.
Any of a scarf, like.
Let's see. What's the opposite of a snowman?
Snowman.
water.
Here's this one that's in, it's in like northeast Minneapolis.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so cool, he does
Oh,
great
wow.
stuff. But if you ever look at like Indeed, like
Oh.
there's Day Tripper beer and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. But it's really neat stuff.
There's some really great ones near Snelling and, like in the little Africa area, like right next to, all the Ethiopian restaurants on Snelling and University. There's
Oh,
some really great
really?
murals that are, mosaics.
Can you take pictures and add it to the Pinterest?
Yeah.
Did you
Awesome.
get my email?
You know, and then I looked for it and it was gone. So it's like I saw your email and then I was gonna respond and then I was looking for your email and I couldn't
My
find
email was
it.
gone?
Did it go to
gone.
your junk folder?
No, I looked in the junk folder too. It was the
Wow.
oddest thing and then I thought, well, maybe, I don't
Did you
know,
dream
maybe
it?
I dreamed, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it.
Okay, okay.
I logged in there, I clicked the Pinterest link and it like took me to some old Pinterest thing I created that's me. So I don't know if I have to like log out and
You have
log
to-
back in.
Yes, you have to log in. I think I gave you
Yeah. Yep.
the login information.
Couldn't get that to work.
And at some point I got like a request from Pinterest, like, did you log in? I was like, yes, I did. So
Okay.
that might have been it.
Okay, anything else? Motion adjourned.
So moved.
Oh, I missed that.
Second.
Who
I
moved it?
moved.
Carrie?
Judy second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:55. Well, that was good. We always get a lot done.
This is a very productive group.
Yes.
You like highly.